Terry Waddell.
Welcome to Dimension Forum. If you've been reading the papers recently, you've been hearing that coyotes are marauding through our neighborhoods. Well, maybe it's not that bad, but there is definitely a lot more contact between humans and what we consider normally to be wildlife. Tonight we're going to be talking about how you can help prevent problems with interaction between your family and this wildlife, and perhaps your pets and the wildlife, and vice versa. And our guest tonight are Dr. Scott Weldy. He is a veterinarian from El Toro, and perhaps more significantly for us tonight, he is also the person who runs the Orange County Bird of Prey Rehabilitation Center. Also with us tonight is Marie Hulett-Kurtner, who is a special lieutenant with the Orange County Animal Shelter, and she is the special education officer for the shelter. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
We have been reading about how once again it seems that there are coyotes coming down and paying us visits at night, and not just coyotes but also skunks, and we have obviously the possums and just about everything else that's imaginable has been crawling out of our hills recently. Marie, just to start off, why is it that those of us here in South Orange County get to have our own little wildlife park in our backyards?
Well, actually, if we take a look out into our backyards, most of us will be able to see lots and lots of open space. So the communities of South Orange County are nestled in wildlife communities. So these guys are actually our neighbors. And the coyotes and the raccoons and the opossums pretty much try and live with us, and we should also try and do the same with them.
When we think about things like coyotes and these kinds of wild animals, you'd think that they would try to avoid human contact. That doesn't seem to be the case.
Well, actually, the reason they don't avoid human contact is we've made our cities a wonderful place for them to live. They have all the food they'd ever want, all the water they'd ever want, all the shelter, and lots of entertainment, too. They really enjoy watching people.
Oh, dear. It's kind of a scary thing. How do we, to kind of jump to the quick here, so what sort of things should we be doing? I mean, are we just setting ourselves up for a fall by just living normally?
We shouldn't be fearful of living with wild animals. Just because a coyote is walking down a street doesn't necessarily make it a bad animal. It's just doing its normal routine every day. There's warning signs, of course, to look for. And you should never corner wild animals. If you go ahead and let them do what they normally do every day, and go ahead and do what you do every day, you'll never have a problem. Of course, you have to take reasonable safety precautions. You have to use good judgment with your children, and you have to take responsibility for your pets. And as long as you use good judgment, you'll never have a problem or experience nuisance wildlife at all.
Dr. Weldy, over the last couple of weeks, we've started to see those signs coming out, and especially in areas that are close to the wildlands that say lost cat. And of course, go step there for a while. And we, for the most part, I guess, know what happened to that cat. Can you explain a little bit about why we lose our pets?
Well, a majority of our animals are going to interact with the environment, and if there's a coyote hunting in that who's also interacting with the environment and he sees an easy prey item, which could be a possum, a rat, a mouse, a kitty cat, or a small puppy or a dog, he's going to take advantage of that. He doesn't care really where his food item was found or born or raised. All he knows is that's food, and they're going to take it out. So when you see these little signs up there, you know, especially in these wilderness areas, you have to assume that either somebody picked up the cat, or it got turned into the, you know, they have it, or it got turned into one of the animal controls, or it became part of the life cycle in the woods around here.
Part of the life cycle. It's an interesting way of talking about that. It sounds like, you know, a lot of us think, hey, our cat's pretty tough. I've seen him stand up to our dog. Can our pets defend themselves against the wildlife?
I think that there's always somebody bigger that's going to hurt you. I mean, that happens in humans as well. And so, if you try to take on a small raccoon, a cat, or a small dog, is probably going to end up with a few bruises and some cuts or something. But you start putting a 20 or 40-pound coyote against an 8-pound cat, and some of the coyotes hunt in packs, so there's more than one. You know, the fight is certainly slanted. Most animals that are predators don't take on something that they don't think that they're going to win. I mean, you know, you don't want to go out hunting and risk your life to pick up a small meal. So when they're out for a kill, they're usually, the odds are slanted for them.
Let's take this whole thing with pets a step further. If I've got a cat, I am thinking, golly gee, this guy is telling me it sounds like he's telling me I can't put my cat outside. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying if you do, you have to understand that certain interactions with the environment are going to occur. I mean, cars will run over him if he's not watched. You know, he's going to interact with other cats, get fights. He's going to pick up viral diseases, bacterial diseases, parasites, whatever, from the environment, because he's going to be exposed to these things, as well as he's going to be part of that nature cycle. So you have to be, as long as you accept that and you understand you're putting that animal into that situation and you agree that that's okay for the cat and it's better to do it that way, that's fine. You just can't get mad when it happens.
Can cats live indoors? Can you have an indoor cat without having those kind of problems? Or are you not depriving them of some wild instinct sort of a thing?
I don't think you are, and some people disagree. I mean, it's a matter of how you raise an animal, and if you raise your child to live outdoors, your child will feel uncomfortable indoors. If you raise your child to live indoors, your child will feel uncomfortable outdoors. You have to work out happy mediums, and in children you do that. If you raise your cat indoors, the cat will be perfectly content indoors. The relationship is between you and your cat. So that's what you want to try to look for.
If I could just jump in from an animal control perspective, I get dozens of calls from people who have what they call indoor-outdoor cats, and they let the cats come and go as they please, and they feel that it's unfair to keep a cat confined indoors. And they also feel it's impossible to train a cat that's been an outdoor cat to be an indoor cat. However, all it takes is a little time and a little patience, have some cat toys inside, have a nice little window ledge that they could sit on to look outside and watch the birds. If you have some patience and work with it for a while, the kitty is going to adjust to living indoors, and it will be happy and it will be healthy. In addition to this, it is unlawful to allow your cat to run onto other people's property. A lot of people don't realize it. They have the idea that it's okay to let your cat run loose. It's actually not, and you can actually be cited for it. In addition to that, if you have a neighbor who doesn't like cats, and I found that people either love cats or they hate cats, and there's not too much in between. So if you have a neighbor that doesn't like your cat coming into his garden, he is totally within his legal rights to trap that cat and turn it over to the animal shelter. So not only are you putting your cat in danger of predators and cars and diseases, but also a neighbor can legally trap your cat and take it away.
Our guests tonight are Dr. Scott Weldy and Marie Hulett from the Orange County Animal Control Animal Shelter. And we're talking about wildlife and pet and family interaction here in South Orange County. If you have any questions for our guests tonight, give us a call at 240-0355. Let's say I have a cat and it's an outdoor cat. Are there things that you can do to maybe try to reduce the possibility that a coyote will find your backyard a good place to hang out?
There really isn't any way that you can guarantee that an outdoor cat will be safe. A coyote can scale 14 feet without any trouble. They're true athletes. They know where the animals are, and cats kind of look at coyotes as they would a domestic dog. And a lot of times cats can bluff out dogs. They'll fluff up their tails, they'll hiss or growl, and they'll swat a dog across the nose, and a dog will turn tail and run. But if they do that to a coyote, it doesn't matter, and he has the last word, effectively. And you have to keep that in mind and realize that there's nothing really that you can do to safeguard your pet if you're going to let it run loose outside.
Okay. Let's go to our phone lines now, and we'll start with Elisa Viejo. Good evening. Welcome to the Mention Forum.
Hi. Am I on?
Oh, and we can't hear them out here in the studio, which makes it tougher. Oh, go ahead. Here we go.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I had a question for the lieutenant.
Sure.
Well, it's about coyotes in South County. I don't know if you already covered this. I just tuned in. I know that I've heard people talk about their pets being killed by coyotes, and I was just wondering why animal control doesn't do something about that, why they can't move the coyotes or, even maybe eradicate them.
That's an excellent question. In fact, I do receive a lot of similar questions by phone at my office, where people want to know why we can't eradicate the coyotes or move them to some magical place that exists somewhere. The bottom line is there have been a number of other locations, cities and counties, that have tried eradication and have tried relocation, and it doesn't work. For one thing, the coyotes are extremely intelligent. It's very difficult to trap them. It's very difficult to round them all up, especially in a city setting where we've got cars and children and people's pets and everything else. So if you're lucky enough to trap a few, even if you're lucky enough to get half of the existing population and relocate them or eradicate them, within a very short amount of time, the remaining population will reproduce at a faster rate. You'll end up having more coyotes than what you started with. And also, if you think about it, the only ones that you'll really catch are the old ones, the not very bright ones, and the sick ones. So you're left with coyotes that are actually genetically superior. So the resulting population
You're breeding super
is
coyotes.
genetically
Yeah.
superior. And as far as relocating to another area, you can't take a group of predators, which is basically at the top of the food chain, and dump them off into another ecosystem. That'll destroy the other ecosystem, even if we're just talking about a small number.
Are we seeing more coyotes? I mean, sometimes when we talk about development in South Orange County, we talk about how wildlife is disappearing. It sounds like in some cases it's the opposite, and particularly with coyotes. Is that the case?
Well, we're interacting more with them. I mean, you know, you look at the canyons, and we put little fingers of houses up into these canyons with nice green belts. So you're actually subdividing the territories. So you're going to interact more because we're also crowding them. We're coming in from all the sides. And so the interaction, I think, is more because we build houses faster than we can move the coyotes. The other thing that just to top off what she had said was when Maria talked about moving them into another ecosystem, you also remember that the coyotes are keeping our prey items, our mice, our rabbits, our squirrels, our rats, all of those under control also. And so if you move them out, you're going to have an overgrowth of those prey items. And so, you know, that's a balance that goes on in nature. You can't just move one item. You can't pick what you're going to move.
And right now we're obviously looking at some of the reasons that we have coyotes and whatnot in our backyards. Besides coyotes, what other kinds of wildlife do we have coming down into our neighborhoods right now?
We have just about everything, and what I want residents to be most aware of, especially as we're in the warmer months now, is that we have rattlesnakes. Now, rattlesnakes are far more of a threat than coyotes, and it's especially important that children be aware of them as they're chasing their softballs into bushes and things like that, because they are dangerous. They do pose a threat. They will attack if you get too close, whereas a coyote will run away, or a raccoon will run away, but a rattlesnake will strike out to defend itself. So be aware that there are rattlesnakes in the majority of cities of southern Orange County.
Yeah, it seemed that rattlesnakes would be only in fields that are, you know, close to wild areas. It sounds like you're saying is they are living in the middle of the communities, developments?
Absolutely. I've taken rattlesnakes out of people's garages, out of their living rooms. I even got one out of somebody's washing machine once. So they're everywhere inside.
Are they
South Orange
growing
County
like
cities.
in our gardens
Well, they're live bearers, meaning they don't have eggs. So the mom walks around or slithers around with her babies in her. So all you need one is to come down one of these green belts, walk over 1 yard, and she drops out half a dozen to a dozen babies and keeps on going. And now your neighbor's got a dozen of them sitting there. And they move along, and, you know, people kill one or two or find one or two, and pretty soon you start finding them, like she says, in garages and things. So they're, you know, they're around just like all the other snakes and lizards and frogs. And when you get these established communities that have been there for 10 or 15 years, those are the ones that start having higher densities of animals in them, because those animals have slowly moved, especially the slower moving ones like frogs and stuff, slowly moving into those communities. So there's a lot more interaction than people are quite aware of. And like Marie says, you definitely should be careful of the rattlesnakes and these animals, because they are dangerous and they are around.
We saw, I guess, last year in Rancho Santa Margarita, there were several rattlesnakes that showed up in a particular street, and it shocked a lot of people because it was not the street that was right next to O'Neill Park. It was several neighborhoods over. And these people thought, well, you know, I don't have to deal with these kinds of things. That obviously was not the case.
An important fact that people should realize is that Orange County Animal Control has officers on duty 24 hours a day. And if we get a call for a rattlesnake at somebody's residence, we'll respond immediately. We'll have an officer there within just a few moments practically. We consider that the most priority of a call that we could receive practically, and we'll get that rattlesnake out of there.
So if somebody sees a rattlesnake, they should call you guys, do
Right.
nothing else. Just
Right,
get out of the area.
absolutely. They
Okay.
shouldn't try and take care of it themselves. That's what we're here for. We'll come out and we'll take care of it.
Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. And line 1 in Mission Viejo, good evening.
Yes, I had a question about raccoons.
Okay.
Do they ever attack cats? We had an outdoor cat, a black one, that disappeared, and right before it disappeared, there had been raccoon sightings in the neighborhood, and we don't really live close to a real wilderness area. Our area is probably more developed. It's the older part of Mission Viejo.
About raccoons.
Well, I mean, raccoons are all over these neighborhoods, and they're in a lot of the established areas. And raccoons, in my opinion, and what I've seen in most of the raccoons is that they'll attack a cat if the cat is attacking them, type thing. And raccoons are, they're not going to eat your cat. If your cat wants to pick a fight with a raccoon or corners a raccoon knowingly or unknowingly, it's going to end up with a big fight because the raccoon's like a 20-pound dog, but it has about 50 pounds worth of dog energy in it. So they're really, really dangerous. And so if a cat and a raccoon got in a scrap, the raccoon's going to probably win without any doubt of it. But
Are there a rabies hazard?
in this area, we haven't had a rabid raccoon that I can.
In fact, rabies
30 or
in
40
general,
years,
for
yeah.
as long as rabies records have been kept with the county, the only animals that have come back positive have been the California brown bats.
Interesting.
So
So
there
I
hasn't been a case in any of our other wildlife at all.
Do we have bats around here too?
Yes, absolutely, which is
boy.
a very good reason why you should rabies vaccinate your kitty cats at home, because if you have an outdoor cat and there's a rabid bat flopping around on the ground, it looks like a cross between a mouse and a bird. They're two most favorite prey items, and they're going to be on that in 2 seconds.
Oh boy! And where are the bats living in Orange County?
Throughout South Orange
All
County,
over.
foothills are everywhere. Yes.
Really? Are they living in caves or under eaves? Or where are they
Under
from?
the eaves,
right.
just about anywhere you'd never see them. They're pretty secretive when they're healthy, but if they're sick, they're going to be flopping around
Yeah.
on the ground.
And a lot of them are found in houses. I mean, people find them. I mean, Animal Control gets calls for bats that are found in the house, and you know how they got in. Not everybody always understands.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to Mission Viejo again, line 2. Good evening. You're on Dimension Forum.
My question is, what can we do to make our community less attractive for the wildlife?
It's pretty straightforward.
I have a whole list of things. First of all,
Fire away.
you need to eliminate the unnatural food sources, and that's the #1 thing you could do. Unnatural food sources are your kitty cats, which are allowed to run loose. They're also your small dogs that are allowed to run loose. Trash, it needs to be kept in strong containers with tightly sealed lids. Never, never use plastic bags, ever, for trash. You should also never feed wildlife. They can take care of themselves. They can find all the food they need. I find in some neighborhoods there's people that leave out 50-pound bags of food for the coyotes in the middle of the night. And then 2 doors down, there's a family that doesn't want the coyotes around, yet they want to have an outdoor cat. And so they can't understand why they keep losing all of their cats to coyotes. As far as raccoons and skunks and opossums go, they're looking for forageable food, insects underneath the soil level, fruit that's fallen off of trees, overripe vegetables. So harvest your fruit, harvest your vegetables, keep a good insecticide program going on your lawn to get rid of the insects. Just look around and think like an animal. What is it around your property that looks good to eat? Also look around and see if there's shelter. Cut back your bushes, get rid of your wood piles outside, or stack them high on shelves, that sort of thing.
Okay. Back to the phones and Rancho Santa Margarita. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. I've got a question. We have swallows all over the place here, and one has taken nest in the eave of our home. And what I want to know is, when is it not only legal, but safe for the birds, that I can go and take the nest down? Because every night we have maybe 50, maybe 90 of them out here, and I don't want to knock the birds away, but I want to be legal with this too.
People travel thousands of miles to go to San Juan County.
That's
They
right.
can't find a swallow, and they're...
Where do you live? And we'll send them to your house.
That's right.
I think that the hardest thing is deciding when is the nest no longer being used, and you basically are going to have to just watch for it. And it'll be obvious when the babies start fledging, because you'll see the babies taking off out of the nest. You'll see them, their heads poking out. And what I usually tell people to do is wait until there is no activity in the nest, and that means you're getting up there, and after you start seeing them and you think it's empty, get up with the ladder and look inside. If it's empty and you don't see any evidence of the birds hanging around, then just break the nest down then. And then you're going to have to, you have to do that on every single nest around your whole house.
Now, he brings up a point. Is it illegal to
Yes.
knock down a swallow's nest?
It's illegal to knock down any active bird nest in California.
Is that right?
basically. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but basically just everything across the board. If it's an active nest, just leave it alone.
Wow. And is that during construction? Because I mean, when
During any time.
Because when you go to
anytime the nest is active.
Boy, because there are all sorts of places in southern Orange County when the swallows start coming. People are out there washing down those.
Yeah, well,
nests.
when they're making the nest, you can keep them from doing that.
Okay.
But once there's an egg in there, then it's
That's
considered
it.
active.
Okay.
And there's all kinds of ways to talk to your pest control people around here, and they'll teach you and show you how to safeguard your house. Some people use plastic liners and things like that. But I've actually been involved with UC Riverside when they stopped construction for 4 weeks on an area because of 2 owl nests in their building that they were redoing. And then once the nest was vacant, then they started construction up. And so, I mean, there are people out there that really will help and wait, but you just have to be patient.
Okay. Yeah, while we're on birds, let's talk about the Birds of Prey Center, the Orange County Birds of Prey Center. And we've got some tape, and while we roll that, why don't you talk a little bit about what it is and why we have something like this?
Well, the Bird of Prey Center was established to help injured hawks and owls and vultures. Other birds of prey are basically raptors, and those are animals that prey upon items in our environment that we don't like usually.
I think people are looking at this and going, there are a lot of owls here.
Yeah, these are barn owls, and this whole set here, majority of those are fledglings. Most of my birds right now are fledglings. That's why you see all the dust flying around. Those are all baby down. These are kestrels. We have a tremendous number of birds right now. That's a Cooper's hawk.
Are these all injured? Or
these are all injured or orphaned. The majority of the birds right now in the center are orphaned. This particular bird somebody tried to make a pet out of and clipped all of its feathers like a parrot. And that's the hardest one to deal with because I'm trying to force molt him and get him back into flying shape so I can release that particular bird. But we were basically, we're a nonprofit corporation that tries to work on saving the injured and damaged birds.
What's the prognosis on most of these birds? Are they going to survive?
They survive and we release them, but when you're talking about, we have to train these babies to hunt like an adult, and we're not mom and dad. So that's why we keep these things in groups, and we try to keep them from becoming socialized to people, to keep them wild. And that's the whole the idea here is to keep these birds as wild as possible, teach them to hunt, and release them with hopefully the best prognosis we can.
People are looking at this and going, they didn't know that there are these many owls in all of Orange County, and you've got a ton of them here, and these are all just picked up out of South Orange County.
Yeah, these birds were basically all out of Orange County, and this is my high time of the year. Last year I had at one time 75 birds in the center, and the majority of those were orphans, and right now we have a little over 60 birds in the center.
Okay, let's go back to the phones and go to Mission Viejo. Good evening.
Yes, hi. This is Janessa James, and my question is, what should you do if you find an opossum in your backyard every night eating your dog's crunch food?
Good question.
Cheers, Marie.
It sounds like something from experience.
Well, what you need to do more than anything is make sure that you don't leave your dog's food outside. As long as the food is out there, the opossum's going to come and eat out of the food bowl. So go ahead and just feed your dog once in the morning, once in the evening. Pull the bowl away afterwards. He'll learn real fast that he has 2 times to eat. And if he doesn't eat during those 2 times, he's going to go hungry. And so he'll learn a new eating style. But if you leave a big bowl of food outside, all of the wild animals are going to come and make themselves at home in your backyard, including raccoons and skunks and other animals that you probably don't want to have back there.
You're talking about coyotes being the top of the food chain. It seems possums are probably a little bit lower.
A little bit lower, yes.
To clean up the scraps. But the thing is, if you have a dog bowl sitting out there with food for your dog and you have a raccoon in there eating it, and your dog says, "Get out of the way, raccoon," there's going to be a conflict. And that's when usually I end up with the possum and the dog interaction. And these guys are out quarantining the dog because it was bit by a raccoon or some animal, and I'm in stitching up the dog because of that. So if you can eliminate that intersection of those animals, then you can eliminate a lot of problems, and you can also safeguard your pet.
Obviously, one of the other interactions between humans and pets kind of goes the other way. Not pets, humans and wildlife go the other way, where we injure wildlife one way or another. If we come across an injured coyote or deer or raccoon, what should we do?
Call these guys. Call your animal control officer and let them deal with it. What they will do is they're trained not only just to pick up that animal and make the decisions on what to do with it, but they're also networked with everybody. And like my bird of prey center is networked with everybody's animal controls around here, and the animal services, the Fish and Game, Fish and Wildlife. When they get raptors, they send them to the people that are on that list that do raptors and mammals and deer and stuff. And so we're all, I'm on 24 hours. If they need me or they need another veterinarian, we all are networked together. And so if they have a problem, they will handle it, and then they will ferry it off to that particular facility where it will get the care needed for it.
Okay. What is the number for the Bird of Prey Center if people want to get in touch with you?
It's 714-837-0786.
Okay. And how about the animal control folks?
Anytime anyone needs to call us, especially for injured animals, the number they should call is 935-6848. Now, it is a voicemail system, but there's cues along the way that tell you what to do. So if you're calling about an injured animal, it'll say, press number 1 or press number 2. So just follow the instructions, and if you're calling about an injured animal, it immediately goes to a live person who will take the call and get an officer dispatched. And again, we're 24 hours a day.
Same with a rattlesnake?
Absolutely.
Especially with a rattlesnake? Okay, I want to kind of go over again. We were talking about this whole thing about rattlesnakes. Are there certain areas that you should avoid or look for them? You were mentioning kids just running off in the bushes looking for a ball can get attacked by a rattlesnake. What sort of things do we have to keep our kids from?
To educate your children.
Definitely.
So that they understand that when they hike around in their shorts or they ride their bike out in the field, that they stay in wide paths and they don't tromp through the brush. And if they're running along the edges of a field that's been mowed and there's high brush and their ball goes in there, don't just run in after the ball. If a guy gets a home run because you walked to get your ball, that's better than spending the day or week in the hospital. And so it's just a good idea just to teach your children common sense. When you walk out in the fields, you walk with a grown-up or a large group of kids, because even a couple small 5-year-olds will be taken on by a bigger predator if that predator's hungry enough. And you're talking about little screaming little children. That's a real attractive food item. So make sure that the children stay with adults. They don't wander away from camps. They don't wander around the fields by themselves. And when they walk, they will look where they're walking. They look in the ground, and they walk on wide paths.
If you are bitten, though, a lot of people still have the old notion that you're supposed to get a knife and cut open the wound and suck out all the venom and everything. The most important thing is to remain calm. If you can, apply a light tourniquet right above the wound, and it should be very loose. You should be able to get 2 fingers in. If you tie it too tight, you're doing more damage than good. You just want to slow down circulation. You don't want to stop.
And then call the emergency people.
Call 911, relax. You're going to be okay.
Okay, we are out of time, and I want to thank you both. We've already still got people on the line, too. So thank you very much for coming down tonight, and we want to thank you for joining us tonight on Dimension Forum.